Welcome, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer. We're skipping all the usual preamble today because, honestly, we have a truly beautiful and timeless story to unpack. It's a short fable called The Little Star That Never Gave Up. We're going to look closely at the narrative structure of this story and discover the really profound life lessons hidden within its simple characters. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever felt too small to matter? I mean, really think about that for a second. We've all been in rooms or workplaces or social situations where we felt completely overshadowed by louder voices, bigger personalities, or people who just seem to effortlessly shine brighter than we do. It's an incredibly common human experience to feel like a tiny speck in a massive universe, right? And that very real, very relatable burden of feeling insignificant is exactly where our story begins. Section 1, A Dream in the Sky, the burden of feeling invisible. So this sets the stage for our main character, a tiny star high above the world named Twinkle. When we look at this comparison, on one side we have Twinkle's internal reality. High up in a sky that sparkles every single night, she looks around and only sees how much smaller she is compared to the other stars. She feels small, invisible, and just entirely unimportant. She constantly wishes she could shine as brightly as everyone else. But contrast that with the reality of the cosmos. The fundamental truth of this universe is that every single light, no matter the size, has its own unique purpose. It's like a giant puzzle where every piece matters. But when you're trapped in that self-doubt, it's nearly impossible to see the bigger picture. Enter Orion. He's a larger, much brighter star who offers this classic piece of wisdom to our protagonist. He tells her, "Don't worry, little star, every light has its own purpose." And it's meant to be comforting. It really is. But here's the fascinating thing about human, or, well, in this case, celestial nature. Words of affirmation don't always magically fix deep-seated insecurity. Despite Orion's comforting advice, Twinkle just isn't convinced. Every single night, she tries with all her might to shine brighter, but she looks around, sees the bigger stars looking so much more impressive, and falls right back into feeling totally discouraged. And this brilliantly illustrates why we need a shift in perspective. That shift arrives perfectly in the form of Luna, the moon. Luna overhears Twinkle's sad voice and offers this absolutely profound reframing. She says, "True brightness comes from helping others, not from being the biggest." Luna isn't just tossing out a platitude here. She is completely redefining the metric of success, a real game changer. Twinkle has been measuring her worth by physical size and pure wattage, but Luna is telling her that true brightness is an action. It's a service. It's an entirely different way of existing in the sky. Section 2, The Dark and Stormy Night, when the unexpected happens. Well, a philosophy is just an idea until it's actually tested in the dark, right? One evening, the clear sky suddenly changes. Dark, heavy clouds roll in out of nowhere and cover the expanse of the sky. The wind starts blowing fiercely, and the vast majority of the stars, even the big, bright, beautiful ones, are completely swallowed up by the darkness. And down below on Earth, the stakes suddenly get sky high. A little girl named Emma, who is camping with her family, has wandered off and become lost in the vast, scary forest. She's terrified, she can't find her parents, and she begins to cry. So now, the darkness isn't just up in the sky anymore, it's right there on the ground. Section 3, The Brave Choice, Finding Courage in the Dark. High above, through the rolling storm, Twinkle looks down and sees Emma's distress. And instead of wishing she were bigger, she takes inventory of what she actually has right then and there. She says, "I may be small, but I can still help." Now, what's really interesting about the slide is that this is the ultimate moment of empowerment. She realizes that her size doesn't dictate her capacity for courage. Courage doesn't require you to be the biggest or the loudest. It literally just requires you to show up when it matters most. Let's break down the climax of the story step by step. Step 1, the dark clouds cover the sky, knocking out all the major sources of light. Step 2, Emma gets lost and desperately needs guidance. Now step 3 is where the magic happens. Twinkle doesn't just passively glow, she actively gathers every single bit of light and energy she possesses. She focuses all her strength. And finally, step 4, because she's so small, she's actually able to find a tiny, minuscule opening in those thick, rolling clouds, and she beams her light squarely through it, cutting a path right through the storm. And against all odds, it works. Through the terrifying darkness of the forest, Emma looks up and notices this one, bright, determined little star piercing through the gloom. Emma says, "I'll follow that light." And step by step, guided by this single point of light in an otherwise black sky, the little girl bravely navigates her way safely out of the woods and is reunited with her family. Section 4, Making the Biggest Difference. the true meaning of brightness. Eventually, the storm passes, the clouds finally clear, and a new beginning dawns for our protagonist. As the sky opens up, all the other stars come back into view, and they look at Twinkle not with pity, but with immense pride. Orion, the massive star who tried to comfort her earlier, speaks up again, but this time his words hit totally differently. He tells her, "You weren't the brightest star tonight. You were the most important." So the crucial point is that Orion completely validates Twinkle's heroic act by separating physical brightness from actual value. Being the biggest or the most visible on a normal day means absolutely nothing if you disappear when the storm hits. Importance is defined by action. And Luna the Moon echoes this sentiment, perfectly bringing her earlier lesson full circle. She reminds everyone, kindness makes every light shine brighter. Hearing this, Twinkle smiles for the very first time in the story. She finally understands the lesson deep in her core. Being genuinely helpful to someone in their time of need is infinitely more valuable and, honestly, way more fulfilling than just being famous or superficially admired. So to wrap up the conceptual framework of this fable, let's actually redefine the word brightness for ourselves. In the context of our lives, brightness is metaphorical. It is not the physical size of your light, your bank account, your follower count, or your job title. True brightness is the kindness and courage you actively share to help guide others when they are in the dark. The moral of this story is a permanent reminder that you are never, ever too small to make a difference. And from that night on, Twinkle never worried about her size again. She just shined with happiness, knowing her exact worth. I want to leave you with this final, absolutely vital thought. Whose path can your light help guide tonight? We all have a light. We all have spheres of influence, no matter how small they might seem to us at the time. Don't wait until you feel big enough or important enough to make a difference. Be like Twinkle. Look for those tiny openings in the clouds, gather your strength, and shine your kindness out into the world. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep shining, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.